Welcome to Tilted Perceptions Podcast, Episode 9, starring me, Jimmy B. All right, so in this episode, I'm just going to kind of pick up where I left off in the last episode. On the last episode, I kind of gave you guys a rundown of my story, of my childhood and my journey into recovery and my journey through my drug induced psychosis and schizophrenia. And I mentioned that I would talk about the process and some of the things that I did, which really um, help me unblock some of the childhood traumas and things that were a detriment to my soul and spirit. So, first of all, let me say that it was extremely difficult to get clean and sober. It was one of the hardest things that I've ever, if not the hardest thing that I've ever done in my life. It's not easy. I feel like I'm fortunate and one of the lucky ones. The not so lucky ones end up dead. The lucky ones end up staying alive. So I'm here talking to you guys, so I'm one of the lucky ones. I'm also lucky in a sense where I put the drugs down just in time to where I got my mind and my sanity back. Although I'll touch on that in a little while, but some people never make it back. Some people fry their brain, cross the line of insanity, and they stay there, and they never come back. They never come back to reality, and they kind of live in a altered dimension or altered reality because of the damage that they've done to their brain. I wasn't far from that. So when I tried to get clean and sober in the end of 2006 and into 2007, I struggled a lot. I was in and out, in and out. And what really was a game changer was doing the work in like taking inventory of myself and talking to someone else, verbalizing what was going on with me and all my thoughts. As a matter of fact, I was in this drug induced psychosis. I was talking to myself. I was hearing voices. I was living in a false reality. I believed what the voices were telling me. I thought I was on the Truman Show. I thought I was on a reality TV show. Thought I was going to get a bunch of money, and I thought that I couldn't tell anybody about it because if I told them, I would lose out on the money. So, anyways, really kind of where this stuff flowered and bloomed from is I was in an outpatient rehab program, and usually they do a check in a group setting, and they go around the room and they will ask you what your name is, um, how many days clean you have, and what's your drug of choice. And as they're going around the room, I'm irritated and agitated, and I'm hearing voices, and they won't shut up, and I can't figure out how to stay sober, and I'm just a wreck, and my mind is gone. So it finally gets around to me, and I just remember saying, "I'm Jimmy. I'm a drug addict and an alcoholic, and I'm sick and tired of you guys videotaping me. I'm tired of getting videotaped, and I know you guys are in on it." And I like stood up and I like stormed out of the group and walked outside and was planning on just like bouncing out. I started walking down the street, and this little old lady, chased after me, and she grabbed me by the arm and said, "You know what? I'm really glad you said something. We want to get you the help that you need." And when she said that, it kind of pissed me off because in my mind, the help that I felt that I needed was them to stop videotaping or whatever. That's how far I was gone. But, anyways, that little outburst in that episode landed me to talk to a psychiatrist. And I talked to this psychiatrist, and she was a sweet lady. And I remember my first initial meeting with her, I think it was that same day. I went up to her office and I sat down, and she asked me what was going on. And for the first time ever, I just started telling her what I thought was going on in my mind. And I'm so grateful that she didn't judge me. I'm so grateful that she just listened and she didn't say that she didn't believe me. And she just gave me that space to get it out. And that was the first time I ever verbalized what I thought was going on in my mind. And from that, uh, she did put me on some medication, and I started attending these dual diagnosis groups, and they were helpful. There were other people like myself, and the medication actually helped quite a bit in the beginning for me because I was so out of it, and I was so just brain fried and looped from all the meth and stuff that I did. And I believe it was Zyprexa that I was on. I think that was it. And it helped me sleep. I wasn't getting lots of sleep early on because the voices were just loud and I was always irritated and agitated. So it helped me sleep, and um, it was definitely very helpful for me in the beginning. And after about months of being on those pills, I stopped taking them because I didn't want to become addicted to pills. But very helpful early on. Seeing a psychiatrist, talking to a psychiatrist, getting on some antipsychotic meds, and attending dual diagnosis groups. I feel like from that, I was able to, it helped me in my process, right? I still had my struggles of in and out of 12 step meetings and trying to get sober, but it was the talking to a psychiatrist and opening the door of verbalizing and talking about what was going on in my mind to get some type of help. And then, attending 12 step meetings, I was going to meetings all the time. And I think I mentioned in my last podcast, I finally asked for help. I, finally said my first sincere prayer that I felt like, and it landed me in a 12 step meeting. And that's kind of where my journey in recovery really begins, in a sense, where I finally started doing some work on myself. Because up until that point, I really didn't bother to look at me as the source of any problem. I never really thought about doing any work other than just sitting in a seat and hoping that, something magical would happen to me and my life would change. What I know today, and it's true with anything, not just recovery, that if you want anything that's worthwhile in life, you need to work for it, right? If you want a good body, you got to stay healthy and you got to work at it. If you want to get better at your craft, you got to practice it and you got to do it. If you want to get sober, there's work that you have to do in order to maintain sobriety. Man, it's I just thought that I had a problem with alcohol and drugs, right? And then if I put the drugs down and the alcohol down, I'm cured. But that's not really the case because I have all this internal stuff that's going on inside of me, all that stuff that I talked about in my last podcast, of the things that were bothering me from my childhood that I never talked about and I never dealt with. So I didn't realize it in the moment, but what I realized today from doing a bunch of work on myself is that all those things, all those traumas, all those suppressed memories that cause anxiety and fear and shame and guilt and remorse, all those things were still festering and growing and inviting negatives into my life. And no wonder why I drank and used the way that I did. I drank because I'm an alcoholic, and I used because I'm a drug addict, but I also drank and used to not feel what I was feeling, not deal with the internal issues that was going on inside of me. So what I'm trying to say is that I had to tackle and deal with my internal issues in order to shed light on my problems, to know what I need to work on. And through that process of working on myself, I was able to clear all the stuff inside of me that had been blocking me, allow the spirit of the universe or the grace of God to come in and expel the obsession and drink and use, and find my spirituality again, and become a spiritual being and a better human being, in the process. And doing that, not only do I get those things that I just talked about, but I also find out that it's a lot easier for me to not pick up a drink or gravitate to a drug or a mind altering substance. So, spirituality is a huge part of it, and one thing that I love a lot about 12-step programs is that it doesn't demand that you believe in any one thing. It's not a religious organization. It's open to anyone. It doesn't matter what you believe in, just as long as you believe in something that works for you. And a huge part of it is praying, and I believe that prayer works. For a long time that was my higher power. I just believed that prayer worked. And if I say these prayers, and it doesn't have to. It can be however I want to say it. It doesn't have to be like a memorized prayer. Although I have memorized some prayers, but it could be just like talking to a friend, right? Prayers in action. So I had to take action, and that kind of just it grew from my first sincere prayer, and it grew from there, and that's part of it, but I feel like the huge part and the hugest relief for me in the beginning was doing an inventory on myself and really uncovering the things that were blocking me. So the way that that's broken down is that we analyze our resentments, we analyze and write out our fears and our sex conduct and the way that we treat other people, and we ask ourselves simple questions, and we try to uncover the truth about the situation, or at least get it on paper, and look at it. Because if we get it on paper and look at it, we can start analyzing and dissecting it and realizing where we're at fault or what we could have done different, or seeing that we are very selfish, dishonest, and inconsiderate, and being honest with ourselves about that. And that's extremely important if I want to be free. If I want to have inner peace, if I don't want to drink, it's extremely important that I'm honest and thorough and analyze the stuff. If I never identify what my problems are, how would I know what I need to fix? I wouldn't. I wouldn't know what I need to fix if I never looked at it. So that's kind of what it is. I refer to the inventory process as the mirror. I get to see who I really am, and up until getting to that point in the process, I never bothered to look at myself as a source of any problem. I was always good at blaming other people for all my shit, like playing the victim mentality. It's her fault, or it's their fault, or it just had a bad go at it, and I'm the victim, and blah 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 blah, excuse after excuse after excuse. And a lot of people do that. A lot of people play the victim. you know so I realized that I had a lot of petty resentments, and the questions are simple. It's like, what are we resentful at? And usually it's the people that are closest to us, right? Our moms, our sisters, our dads, our cousins, our aunts, our uncles, our best friends, our old, you know, friends, or whatever. We usually have something that, uh, disturbed us during the course of our life that we haven't really talked about or dealt with, that whether we realize it or not is festering there, and so we write these out, and we ask ourselves why we have them. So what am I resentful at and why? And then the next part of that is what part of me is affected by that. Did it hurt my self-esteem? Did it hurt my pocketbook? Did it hurt my ambitions? Did it affect my emotional security, my physical security? Uh, and then, you know, we're just trying to get to the root cause of whether we played a part in it. If we played a part in it, then we need to own up and man up for it, and eventually like try to apologize for behavior. And maybe we just have a resentment that we didn't play a part in, but we are resentful, and the part that we're playing is that we're still holding on to it, right? And a lot of us do that. We hold on to it. We'll never let it go. It's just like the thing that always crops up, and we give people a stank eye because we held on to that resentment from fucking 25 years ago. And that person's probably not even thinking about it, but we're letting it affect us. So that stuff have power over us, whether we realize it or not. And I'm just grateful that I tapped into this solution, this process, because it really has helped me over the years, and I do it constantly now. It's part of just my routine and what I do as a way of daily living. And it's such a huge benefit and been a huge part of why I am the way that I am today. Because I try to keep my channel and my insides unblocked, right? Anything that is inside that is negative or dirty or not uncovered is just a breeding ground to attract all the negatives, all the resentments, all the fears, all the depressions, the anxieties, all those types of things that are a detriment to our soul and our spirit. I have to keep it clean inside, so I don't attract those things, because I want the sunlight of the spirit. I want positives. I want love. I want joy. I want happiness. Um, I want abundance. I want wealth. I want prosperity. I want all the good stuff, right? And I can't have the good stuff if I'm constantly, resorting back and stewing and sitting on all the negatives. So in order to not do that, I have to unclear the channel, and so that's what we do, and we unclear the channel. And the other part is fears. And this is just like a quick overview. I could go a lot more in detail to it, but this is just like a broad overview of what we do, and how helpful it can be for us. So the next part is fear, and like we're supposed to analyze our fear, and I thought when I got here, there's not much that I'm afraid of, but I was lying to myself. If I'm being honest with myself, there's all kinds of things I'm afraid of. Like I have a fear of abandonment, a fear of rejection, a fear of confrontation, a fear of authority, a fear of dying, a fear of relapse, fear of authority, a fear of something happening to my kids, all kinds of stuff, right? We all have fears, and we just need to identify them and ask ourselves why we have them. And sometimes they correlate to like resentments or childhood stuff. For example, abandonment. Right? I have a fear of abandonment because my dad abandoned me as a child. So I didn't feel like I was born with that. I was born with abandonment. So that was always there, and what we also is kind of interesting is that as we grow and we mature, and we grow up and we learn about ourselves and relationship patterns and all this stuff, that's also the way that we were raised, or these fears and stuff that we have comes out in different ways in the way that we treat people in relationships. For example, if I hold on to and I have this fear of abandonment, I might be likely to run from a relationship out of fear of being abandoned. So it's kind of a trip that most people, the way they act and behave today as adults, is a direct result of how they were raised and what they've held on to and carried with them from their childhood into adulthood. Pretty trippy. So I need to analyze my fears, ask myself why I have them. Maybe I know, maybe I don't know. It doesn't really matter. I just need to do the work, right? I need to write it out. And according to the process and the program, really the only solution for fear is to identify them, know that we have them, and try to pray and ask the spirit of the universe or God to remove them. And I find that it works. So I would try these things as an experiment. Like, oh, it's saying that I should pray, maybe I should try it, right? Even though I'm super skeptical and I don't know that it'll work or not. I don't know. I'm skeptical, right? I'm skeptical about everything until I have enough experience in something that there's no more needed proof and no more reason to doubt it. That's kind of how my mind works, anyways. And that's this so true in my own story and journey with prayer is that I was super skeptical of the God thing. I was super skeptical of prayer, but yet I tried it and experimented with it. And now it's an experiment that works so well that I have no reason to deny it, and I absolutely depend on it 100% in my life today. And I still don't even need to know who or what it is. I just need to do it. So I do it. And if I'm afraid of something, it's just like, oh, I catch myself, I'm in fear. Maybe I should just pray about it. And it could be simple, like, man, I'm really tripping out right now, and I'm kind of afraid of this confrontation and saying this thing that I need to say to this person. I'm unsure how to do this or handle it. Please help me. Something like that, right? And there's some type of power in that, man. When we verbalize and throw something out to the universe, I feel like the universe conspires to help us out. I can't explain how or why it works. I just know that it does. It's like when we do it, something happens, right? And we got to do something. Prayer is an action. We can't read something and think that, oh yeah, that's the solution, and then not do it and hope to get the results. It's just not how it works. And so that's the fear part of the inventory process, right? And then the last part um, is sex conduct and how I treat other people. And that was an eye opener. That was an eye opener for me to do that and finding out how selfish, dishonest, and inconsiderate I really was, and still can be. But if you never do an inventory or look at this stuff or analyze it, you don't even care. You don't even care. You think that you're just going about your life and you're the victim, right? Or it's all their fault or whatever. So the way I do it, and some of the guys I work with, how I have them do it, I help a lot of people. Um, I don't say that to brag or whatever. It's just part of what I do. Somebody did it for me, so I do it for others. But what I did is I wrote down a list of everybody I ever had an intimate relationship with, and I wrote their name down on a piece of paper. And I asked myself some questions about each relationship. And even if it was a situation in which, it was a one night stand and I was drunk in a bar or something and I don't remember their name or whatever, I'd write down their situation in which I remember. I'm like drunk girl at bar one night or whatever. I wrote all this stuff, wrote all these names down of intimate relationships, and I asked myself questions like, was I ever selfish, dishonest, or inconsiderate? Inconsiderate? Did I arouse jealousy, suspicion, or bitterness? Was there something I could have did better? Basically, was the relationship selfish or not? And as right, so next to their name, if I was selfish, dishonest, and inconsiderate, I'd write a S, a D, and an I. If I aroused jealousy, suspicion, or bitterness, I would write a J, an SUS, and a B. You know, and what I noticed after I got down to the end of this list is that I have a pattern. In most situations and most intimate relationships, is that I'm very selfish, dishonest, and inconsiderate. I don't care how you feel as long as I get what I want. Whoa. Wow. Right? I needed to see that. I needed to see that. It actually says we got this all down on paper and looked at it, because when we look at it, it's like, dang, I'm not everything that I thought I was. And that's the thing, is most of us have these preconceived ideas of who we think we are. We think, oh yeah, or I let me speak for myself. I used to think I'm not that bad. I'm a pretty good dude. I'm a solid guy. I got a heart of gold, man. I'm a great dude. I mean, I didn't really do too many people that dirty. And I really believe that about myself. And that's really what I thought about myself, that I'm not that bad. And I still believe that, like, I'm not that bad. However, after I get all this stuff down on paper and I look at it, I don't see a good dude. I don't see a solid guy. I don't see a guy with a heart of gold. I see a guy with a lot of issues. He's very selfish, dishonest, and inconsiderate. Okay. So that is conflicting with the ideals that I have drawn of myself, which basically is hypocritical. And that's humiliating. It's humiliating to see that and realize that, and an eye opener, a jaw dropper. Like, damn, a lot of work that I need to do. But also, in a sense, it kind of is so humiliating that it forces me to want to change, right? And I said it before and I'll say it again. If I never identify what my problems are, how would I know what I need to fix? I wouldn't. But now that I did one, I do. So now what? Now what do I do with all this information? And after the intimate relationships, we write down family members that we grew up with. Mom, dad, brother, cousin, aunt, uncle, um, anybody that was closely related to us, that we grew up around. And then the next section would be friends. And the next section after that would be coworkers. And the section after that would be anyone else. And we ask ourselves the same questions about all these people. Was I selfish, dishonest, inconsiderate? Did I arouse jealousy, suspicion, or bitterness? What should I have done instead? Was the relationship selfish? And I ask myself these questions about everybody that I've been involved with my whole life, and I realized that I got a lot of cleaning up I have to do and a lot of things that I need to work on. And one of the main things that I need to do is not be so damn selfish, inconsiderate, and dishonest. So the next part is like, it's one thing for me to know that, and I like just took inventory of myself, right? I know it. I got it all down on paper. Now I'm like, dang, I know what I need to work on now. The next part is telling somebody else, right? And it's usually somebody you trust. And in the recovery process, we talk about sponsors or whatever. Somebody, it doesn't necessarily have to be, but that's who it is most of the time for people in recovery. But if you're watching this right now and you're not an alcoholic or an addict, I mean, anybody could benefit from doing an inventory, right? And the part of it is just telling somebody else that you trust that will be unaffected by what you're about to tell them. Closed, closed mouth, understanding friend. Um, So yeah, letting the cat out of the bag to somebody else, right? And when we do that, it's humiliating, and that's where I got the hugest part of relief in my journey on recovery, and it just kind of catapulted me into doing the rest of the program, and really just hit my stride, and took this thing to the next level, and it really like pushed me to go further and do better. And that was when I, did my inventory and then told somebody else what was on it. And I talked about all those things that were bothering me, and all those blockages, and all those childhood traumas, and the sex stuff, and the abandonment issues, and the murder that I witnessed, and all those things that were there, and um, it's crazy that once we expose that, and once we let it go, and we talk about it, and we verbalize it in front of another human being, it almost dissipates on the spot. Like, the sense of relief is indescribable. I don't want to paint a wrong picture, though. So what I'm describing is kind of what I know to be true after the fact, looking back. When I first did it, and I first exposed it, and I first talked about it, I actually felt kind of raw and like unsure of what I just did. Kind of weird, funky feeling. I did feel like a weight was dropped, but it wasn't long after that. I mean, within the next week or two, that all those things that I just mentioned started to happen. I felt a little lighter. I had a little more pep in my step. I felt, if there this God that I was skeptical of, maybe it's real. Maybe something. Maybe this program can work for me. Maybe something's happening. Um, I felt different. I walked with purpose. My thinking started to shift. My perspective and perception started to change. Um, and that is something that I could not have done on my own, and that is a fact. So the proof is in the pudding. Like, when I do the work and I get results, and I start feeling better, and I start noticing internal differences, and I start feeling less heavy, and more spiritual, I know something is happening, and I know something is working. So when something is working, I'm going to pursue it. And it's the same thing with drugs or alcohol. If alcohol is working, I'm going to get another drink. If the drugs are working, I'm going to get more. The thing is that I don't know how to control the amount that I do. So when I get more, I burn my life to the ground, right? But it's the same concept, that, like, what I'm trying to say is that what I was doing for myself when I got clean and sober felt so good that I chased that high. I chased the sober high, right? And that unloading and dumping all the stuff that I found out about myself, and all the stuff that I carried with me from childhood, was a huge momentum shift in my recovery. And it's, um, where are we at? March, God willing, in a few months, in June, it'd be 18 years. I haven't touched a drink, or done any hard drugs or anything like that. That is just mind blowing to me. But that was the that was the game changer for me. I honestly had reservations going into that moment, and after I dumped all my stuff, the reservations went away. And keep in mind, I was young when I got clean and sober. I was 26 years old, and my thought process going into this, this trying to do the work, was, mm, this is buying me some time. I'll try it. I'm super skeptical of it. Maybe it'll, give me the break that I need, and next time I'll be okay, because I'm young, and everybody, all my friends still drink, so more likely than not, I'm going to drink again. That was my thought process. After I did my inventory and after I told somebody else about it and like dumped everything, all of a sudden my thinking changed from, damn, I don't even want to drink or use no more because if I do, I know exactly what's going to happen. And so that's unexplainable to me. Like I could not have produced that psychic change or that shift in my thinking by myself without doing any work. It just would not have happened. So, yeah, that's huge. And I encourage everybody, even like I said, even if you're not an alcoholic or an addict or you don't have problems with alcohol or drugs, doing a regular inventory of ourselves and kind of analyzing our resentments, our fears, and the sex conduct and the way that we treat other people, and then like telling somebody else that we trust about it is a huge just advantage for us. It just does so much for our spirit and really helps us identify what we need to work on. And so, like, that's the next part in the program is that, like, now that we know what our problems are, and now that we've told somebody else about them, now that the cat is out of the bags, what are we going to do about it? How am I going to change? Am I willing now to become a better person and a better man? And if I am, what else am I prepared to do? And it keeps going. And I'll get into some other stuff later, but that part right there was so huge for me and instrumental in my first few months of a recovery back in 2007. That was just huge. Played a huge part in why I'm sitting here today, why I am the man that I am today. But what I will pat myself on the back for is I've never taken a break from doing this work. I've done this work for consistently for going on almost 18 years, and I keep doing it. And I keep learning more about myself. And by no means am I perfect at all. By no means do I not still practice selfishness, dishonesty, and inconsiderateness in respect to other people. Sometimes, I am fallible. I am a human being. The thing is that everything that I am today is a lot less extreme, and I actually have a conscience and think about the things that I do today. And um, I'm not in the business of hurting people. That I don't go into anything trying to hurt anybody anymore. And I actually think about those types of things before I even take a new adventure. I don't want to hurt anybody, and I don't want to hurt myself in the process. And that's another thing too, is that we think that we aren't hurting ourselves, but we really are. The way that we treat other people. There's a thing in this world called karma, and I truly believe that karma is real, and the way what we put out into the world, we will receive, whether it's good or whether it's bad. So maybe think about the way that we treat other people. We get what we give, and if we're given a bunch of selfish, dishonest, hateful, manipulative stuff, then we're probably going to get that back. So we need to think about how we act and how we treat other people and how we go about our daily life. And I try to do that today. And I don't know, my life's pretty good. I don't have much to complain about today in this very moment right here, right now. Life is pretty good. And if I stay right here in this present moment, I have a good chance of being connected with the spirit of the universe. It's when I get away from this present moment and I start wallowing around in yesterday or getting too excited about what's to come tomorrow, then I'm all over the place and my mind starts to swirl. If I want the peace, I need to be here right now. And there's lots of good tools for that. You know, Meditation is one of them. Anyways, hope this was helpful to some people. It's definitely helpful for me. I don't know everyone who's going to watch this, but if you do, just know that I am rooting for you. I want to see you win. I want to see you succeed. If you have any questions about anything that I talked about in this episode, drop a comment either on one of my podcast clips or on the YouTube video itself. And I will catch you on the next episode. Thanks for tuning in.